Good morning, everyone. We appreciate you joining us. You're getting ready to see the final video of the Motel Romeo November Alpha kind of series we've been running. A lot of people, I've seen that number of views drop on that video, on those videos, because I don't know if people's not interested in it or they don't understand it. But what we're trying to show here is what's going on. And the reason we're pushing this so hard is because we got a lot of big corporate farms just laying out there waiting like a snake, like an alligator, you know, the predator, waiting on a farmer to fold up in western North Carolina so that they can come in and snag up the land. And why do they want to do that? Because these areas out in western North Carolina, folks, where all these, some of these bigger farms are, is in desolate locations. What a better place, folks, to be able to get into with being a big corporate farm and be able to do something without anybody seeing what's going on. So that's why we're uncovering what we're uncovering here, just so you're made aware of it. The application is by airplane, crop dusters, they say, drones. Who knows if they're not planning on dropping it when they do the seeding. You never know. Even these states that are passing legislation to stop the spraying, I still see, you see as well in the comments, people saying they're still spraying. I guess, folks, the law has absolutely no meaning if you're a criminal. That may be why they call it the criminal justice system. It's just for the criminals. That would be a good observation to say and probably take to the bank on that. I think they have more rights than the law-abiding citizens do. And so that's why we're putting this out there, folks, so you know what's going on. They're wanting to use this in a place where there's no label, so you don't know what's going on. If you don't believe all this genetically modified stuff, I just want you to go, next time you go in the grocery store, you start flipping over labels. Even your soup cans, folks, is made with genetically modified organisms. You can look and pick up a Campbell soup can, and right there it is. Now, a lot of it is hid by QR codes, so you're going to have to stand there with your smartphone and hit that QR code and search for it. And that's what they're doing. They're using these QR codes to hide what's in your stuff you're eating. It's all poison, folks, and they have no idea what the long-term effect is, but the people in Europe have more sense than the greedy, power-hungry control freaks in the United States that's wanting to make huge profits off of your health. And they do so by making you sick on one side, and on the other side they're going to give you a pill from Big Pharma. So you see these ag companies and the pharmaceutical companies are now one place. Prime example, Bayer bought Monsanto. Monsanto's the company that was responsible for all of the Roundup issues, people getting cancer and stuff. Well, you buy up the problem and you have the solution. Just like a computer virus. You create the virus, you have the solution. Don't that kind of jive right there together? You got the same man that created the virus for the computer to give you the solution on it, is also the one that's trying to create the problems in the genetically modified stuff, lab-grown meats, eat your bugs, and then have the solution. I hope people wake up and see what's going on and see that you're the guinea pig and it's all about control. Keep you sick, keep you lethargic, and keep you on pills, and it's a big revolving money bag and you have certain individuals that's making huge profits off of it, and we just want everybody to know what's going on. So folks, this will be the last one on the genetically modified information. I hope this helps you, gives you a little insight. If you hadn't seen the other two videos, the first one is Big Pharma Expands into Farming. The second one, I'd have to look, but they got skull and crossbones on the thumbnail. So if you want to find them, that's easy. It's skull and crossbones. That's going to be the thumbnail, and you can watch them 3 videos, this being the third one, and you'll know what to look for. So we're going to continue on with the next clip, and this will be it, folks. Welcome to Deep River Farm, folks. I told you we was going to do another video here on following up with Big Ag and Big Pharma joining forces, which is not a good thing to do. Why would you want to make your food where it was going to make people sick? I guess the only reason is so that the other side of your industry that you are partners in can treat the people who get sick off of your food. That's kind of how it goes. That's kind of how the computer industry is. You build a computer, you figure out how to make it sick, and then you offer the solution after the computer's got the virus. And it's a big circle. It's all about the money and all about the profit. And that's what's going on in the food industry, folks. They figured out how to get people addicted to it, how they can make them sick, and then let their corporate partners treat them and keep them addicted to pharmaceuticals the rest of their life. So how are they going to do this, putting the Motel Romeo November Alpha into your food? We have already talked about that on a previous video called Big Ag Meets Big Pharma. The one leading up to that one was called Big Pharma Expands into Farming. So you need to see these 3 videos. They're all shadow banned, and they don't want people to know the truth, but we're going to expose it to tell you what the truth is so that you can see what to expect and what these corporate farms are wanting with farmland in western North Carolina, so that they can impose this on you unknowingly with no labels through the vegetables in your local supermarket. Now, justifying the genetic rewrite, they're going to use climate panic as a cover story. Predictably, the rationale for this sweeping overhaul of global agriculture is going to be called the Charlie Lima Indigo Motel Alpha Tango Echo, and then you're going to add the word that comes with paper money, the change. And we have to talk in this kind of code, folks, because it's picked up by your Alpha Indigo. You know what I'm saying here. For those of you who are new, we're talking in the phonetic alphabet because of restrictions on videos and reduced. We're going to go ahead and call it that. Restrictions, reducing them even more for beyond the shadow banning. So the story's going to go like this. The winters in the Pacific Northwest are going to get warmer. The fruit trees aren't blooming properly. And rather than replant all the orchards, we're just going to spray them with the Motel Romeo November Alpha on the leaves to trick the plants into behaving as if winter had occurred. The technology becomes a savior narrative, restoring productivity, buffering against the climate extremes, and buying time until we find permanent solutions. It's always another solution that's going to derive off of what they think the solution is now. That way they can inject more money into more research. It's nothing more than a big game in the industry, and that's what it is. But this logic will mirror the same mindset behind geoengineer, dim the sun, spray the aerosols into the atmosphere, genetically engineer every living system on Earth to comply with the Charlie Lima Indigo Motel Alpha Tango Echo goals. It's not stewardship of the planet. It's an industrial reboot to creation. What do you think about that, folks? An industrial reboot to creation. So, folks, from the garden to the grid, it's a biblical scale transformation. Tarana's work isn't just a new tool in the agricultural toolkit. It's a worldview shift, a move toward controlling the genetic blueprint of anything that grows. Combined with past efforts to alter the human genome, this suggests a kind of digital dominion over biology, where alpha indigo, big pharma, and global financiers decide what traits survive into the next generation and what traits will disappear. Well, I can tell you right now, the goal is to get the heirloom seeds to disappear because they don't want anybody eating healthy. What do you think, folks? And are we on target here with this observation? What do you think? So, folks, the Motel Romeo November Alpha sprays that reformat the genetic language of all the crops may seem like it's a science fiction movie or a story, but they're happening. And they're happening now, in public, funded by familiar faces and cheered on by your corporate media who's bought and paid for, and they're not going to object. They're going to go right along with it just like they do everything else, because there's a propaganda to be fed. That hunger has to be fed for those people, and they're not going to journey off of that, and there's an agenda to be met, and this is part of it right here, folks. Now, every technology can be justified if the narrative is strong enough. They're going to use the mainstream propaganda media to push the narrative. Now, Tarana and the backers are banking on this Charlie Lima Indigo Motel Alpha Tango Echo urgency, the biotech optimism, and public confusion to move forward and unchecked. So they're going to try to talk around in a circle like the politicians do. You never know what side of the fence on. They always straddling because they got one hip pocket on each side of the fence getting paid. So that's the way they do. They never get a bill passed or anything done because they straddle the fence. You don't know what position they're on other than their own agenda, and that's to make money. They go in running a $100 million campaign for a seat in the Senate that pays $174,000 a year. Where's the difference in that money come in, folks? Right here's a prime example. Pharmaceuticals, big ag padding them pockets. And nobody could suffer from it except the people who rely on the grocery stores and the vegetables in the stores. And they're going to inject you, whether you want it or not, with Motel Romeo November Alpha, and put the VAX on the end of that, and that's what they're after. Now, what happens when unregulated, unchecked genetic alteration becomes a matter of everyday life? Who regulates the heritability of trace passed on in the crops? Where does it stop? What rights do the farmers have when their fields are involuntarily exposed? That's to get rid of the heirloom seeds, folks. It's just going to be an accident over some of your major seed companies, and hope that people don't have stuff stocked up. And they can always, when they're doing some of this cloud seeding, dump a lot of this stuff right on along with the cloud seeding, and it rain right down on your plants and get into your genetics of your plants, invade the cell buildup and makeup of your plants, and ruin your crops. This is why I said I didn't know if I was going to grow a regular outdoor garden next year. I may go inside a polytunnel or a greenhouse to keep this spray off of my plants. Just in case, because I don't trust any government whatsoever. Everything they tell you is a lie most of the time, and you can't believe anything that they say. Now, the era of the Motel Romeo November Alpha
Agriculture has arrived. It's not with a warning, but with press releases and a $50 million seed round. Whether the future is one of abundance or irreversible genetic chaos remains to be seen. So there you have it, folks. This is our third video on the genetic modified organism seeds, what they're planning to do with it, how they're planning to implement it, and all this great labeling that they're going to have, which will be none, because how many of you sees labels laying on your apples and your bananas and your broccoli and your carrots and your all your other vegetables out there, your potatoes and your peppers, all this stuff? You won't know what you're eating, folks. And even the organic stuff is subject to be compromised because they're planning on spraying it from planes. And we all know that once it gets in the atmosphere, a dust particle can travel for miles, and so can this stuff. All it needs is a landing place on a plant, and it's genetically altered. Folks, I appreciate you joining me here today on Deep River Farm. Just wanted everybody to know what was going on. This is the third and final video in the series on genetically modified crops. The first one was Big Pharma expands into farming. The second one was Big Ag meets Big Pharma. This one is the last video in this series. It's a short one, but it was worth making so that it complete the series so you folks know what to expect. Folks, I appreciate you joining me. We thank you for supporting Operation Mountain Relief. And a lot of people say, well, this ain't got a thing to do with a hurricane. Well, it does, because these corporate farms are laying out there, folks, waiting on these people to have to get rid of their land. And these big corporate farms are ready to jump in so that they can start utilizing those areas of rich, fertile soil and have plenty of water to pump out of the rivers to irrigate the lands and stuff for their massive productions on whatever it may be. Well, folks, y'all have a blessed day. We'll see you on the next video.